Alright, to begin with, I asked you to think about some ideas and connections that you can put with this idea, this common idea, but also this somewhat complicated idea of home. So just shout them out. What did you think of with regards to home?
It's for safety and security.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
A place where you can reminisce your memories.
Reminiscence. Memories. Yes,
A
ma'am.
place where there could be a true definition of home, like physical and mental.
It's a physical and a mental location.
Where like original family is.
Your original sense. And I won't write up the next ones. Any others, but just shout them out. What else do you think of when you think of home? Maybe in pop culture and what you've read. Anybody read anything about that?
Usually described as we describe like in social media or in most of the books, it's usually described as home sweet home.
Okay. What books? So I was going to write them up, and here I go writing them up. What books kind of give you this idea of home sweet home? Or
Usually it's a hero's journey, for example. I guess like a hero goes to all these journey and goes past something like there's a happy life, meeting with their regular his or her original family.
Any hero's journeys specifically that strike you in that kind of way?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's a good example of that, right? Where's home sweet home for Harry?
Hogwarts.
Hogwarts is Harry's home sweet home. Ironically, the home that he grew up in is not. And so home, even though we think of it as a place where we grow up, it's also this mental idea that it is where you're welcomed.
Your heart can settle.
Yes, there's this idiomatic expression, home is where the heart is. So even if you're living in a place, you may not necessarily consider it a home because it just doesn't click in the way that we think of a home should click. In many literature then, this fork, when I think of it in terms of like, I tend to think in pictures, the fork between what we think of as home sweet home and then where we live. There's a distance here that often causes a little bit of angst or a lot of angst depending on the distance. You all are international students. Have you ever felt this angst between where you live and what you think of as being home? Can you describe this feeling? Isolation.
I mean, personally, in my experience, I've always felt that because I've moved around a lot. And this is wherever I settled in whatever country I moved. I never felt that angst as much as other people would.
But you can identify it.
Yeah.
I'm going to use your word angst. Very good.
Lost.
Lost.
I think there's like, at least from my experience, there's a sense of disappointment when you can't identify home sweet home with where you live, and rather you have to kind of find like your own home that's different from where you grew up or where you physically call home.
Yeah, you have to make it, and until you do, there's this sense of like, there's something not there, there's a disappointment. In our last discussion, I think you brought up this sense of feeling like there's something in the past that you're reaching toward, but you can't get it. Do you remember that?
You said it last time.
Oh, nostalgia?
Yeah, what is nostalgia?
Oh, it's like you're going back and like looking at all the memories, and you're just like being reminded of everything that you used to have or what you used to do. That's what I think nostalgia is.
Great. I want us to come back to these ideas that you all point out as we're thinking about this key term, home, and the difference here between this idea of where we live and this idea of home sweet home. Because fundamentally what we're going to be thinking about and talking about through Didion's work is this idea of whether or not parents today can give their child a home. When you're confronted with an essay-style question like this, it's your choice to choose how you're going to define that term. However, if I was to ask you which essay you would like to write or which essay you would think would be better, which would you choose? Would you choose to write about this idea of home sweet home, or would you choose to write about this idea of where you live? Is there anybody that would do where we live? Probably not, because it's probably a little bit too straightforward for this style of essay. There's not really too much argument you can do. It's like, could your parents buy you a house and put you there? Yes. Could they give you home sweet home? That's the question, right? You might say no. Let's see if we can get there. Same? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to focus on this idea. And we're going to do so through a reading strategy called connecting. You connect it before with texts, for sure. And so what I mean by that, though, is that when you're given an argumentative essay, part of that is going to require that you connect what you already know with a question that you've maybe seen before or you may not have seen before. You might have thought about this idea of home sweet home before, but you might not have. You may not have thought about home this way before. And so what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to connect in the ways that we've done already this idea of a home with things that you've seen in the past, experiences that you've had in your life, books you've read, television series, etc., in order to make a fundamental argument about whether or not you can get home sweet home from your parents. Does that make sense? So toward the end of the class, we're going to have another writing period, and we're going to try to answer this question in that writing period, that 45-minute writing period. And hopefully through the discussion, we'll be able to generate some ideas about how you can do that. So, let's jump into the analysis questions. I asked you to take a look at 3 analysis questions at the end of this piece. Joan Didion's piece. And I'd love to get your thoughts on it. So, first of all, we have this language that I think our last writer, Amy Tan, may have objected to a little bit in terms of its like super verbose, kind of like highfalutin sounding a little bit. This idea of being paralyzed by the neurotic lassitude engendered by meeting one's past at every turn. Did anybody else think that Amy Tan's hair probably curled when she read that sentence?
Yeah.
Did you pull out her hair? Yeah. What do you think that feeling is, just in layman's terms? If we were to try to take this and communicate this in, let's say, the mother tongue way, what does this mean? This terminology?
Words itself?
Yeah, just so we can break it down.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know all the words, I can search it out.
That's fine.
But lassitude meant like a feeling of like lack of energy, and engendered meant caused.
And then neurotic has to do with neurosis, which is kind of related to like depression and anxiety and those kind of things.
All right. So, all together then, put this What is this ultimately saying in a single sentence? Tired of going back? Sure.
I took it as like, because she's just paralyzed by it, I took it as she's stuck in a state of tiredness from, in that sense of like moodiness from like reminiscing about all her past memories in her old home.
Yes. Literally trapped by the past. Stuck in this kind of lassitude that she says, this kind of paralysis where she just can't get beyond it. When have you ever felt this? If you've ever felt this? Maybe not specifics, but unless you feel comfortable, weighed down by the past.
For me, based on my experience, when I sometimes like look at my photos for the past years, I kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to express this feeling, but it's good to like think of my memories, but it's kind of like, it kind of makes me sad that I cannot go back to the time and
It's just such a wonder. Bittersweet. It feels both good, you know, livening and refreshing in some ways, but also depressing in some ways. Because you're right, you can't ever go back. To your point earlier about a hero's journey in which the hero was constantly trying to make it back home. Does anybody know the classic example of this heroic journey in which the guy is just, he can't quite get home? After the Iliad, the one after the Odyssey. The Odyssey.
Oh, I see.
It's the story of a man just trying to get home. Can't quite make it for 20 years. Just, the gods are not happy with what he's done. They're doing everything that, well, some are, but many aren't, and they're doing everything that they can to prevent him every single step of the way. Smash your crew, stranded on an island, distracted by a goddess, have to go to hell, like all kinds of terrible things that this guy has to go through in order to be able to finally make it back home. And so the fundamental question that this raises is, can you actually make it home? Because at the end of that story, when he comes back, the home that he left wasn't the home that he went to. Bittersweet in some ways. Good. Has anybody else felt this neurotic lassitude and paralysis from the past? When? If I can't push it. Yeah.
When you remember a certain period of your life that you're like really stressed out, and you remember that period when you're like really stressed out and you were having difficulties, and then you look like as Subin said, like you look at photos or remember, like look at the things that remind you of that situation, then you kind of feel a little gloomy. But then as well as like kind of opposite to bittersweet, like you feel gloomy, but at the same time you're happy that you got over it sooner.
Yeah. Great.
So sweet, bitter, not instead of bittersweet.
All right, I like that. We can do a little arrow, a little switcheroo. Sweet bitter. Hey, that's. Is your glass half empty or is your glass half full? Kind of question, right? Is it bittersweet? No.
It's
Sweet bitter. Yeah, I like it. Okay. Cool.
Going off of that,
Yeah.
because like we're focusing on the fact that the hero is kind of stuck in this state. For me, it was more like you start dating at one memory, and then it just leads to like a whole chain reaction of like a bunch of other stuff that comes up that to each other, and then you end up kind of like the author here. You kind of get like overwhelmed by all these past memories, and that's how you kind of get stuck in that state of lassitude.
Great analysis. And I think that there's plenty of information in the text to prove that. Do you get that in through any of the imagery that she uses?
Yeah.
What is some evidence that shows that?
She like gives us like, she kind of describes her actions, and she starts with her saying like she's gonna clean out the door,
Yeah.
and she spreads the towels on the bed, and it starts with like a simple like when she was like still a teenager, like a bathing suit from when she was 17, but then it starts to go through like her father, her grandmother, her grandpa, and it just like digs up more and more memories, and back to what she means like paralyzed.
Yeah, absolutely. Great textual evidence to show this kind of weightiness that memories can have, and paralyze and keep you in place. I think also in terms of the visual aspect of it, how does she describe the, let's say, texture of this scene? Gray, again with this weight, cloudy. But to go to the argument about bittersweet versus sweet bitter, yes, it's gray, yes, it's cloudy, yes, it's dusty, right? Like the husband walks around wearing some dust and everything, right? Again, like a metaphor for the memories that might weigh you down. But at the same time, she uses imagery of talking about the things that they love best. The golden fields, the running rivers. So there is beauty, sweetness in this memory. But there's also heaviness and weight in the idea of home as well. Great. Okay, let's jump down to the second one, unless anyone has any final thoughts or questions or comments about number one. You got some specific diction that she'll use throughout to describe families. Diction of kind of hostility almost.
Yeah.
Ambushes, betrayals, guerrilla warfare. Why does she use this decidedly negative diction? Get it started with this
I think like Didion uses this type of diction because like she's trying to explain that not like even though the word family has a positive connotation to it, not all aspects of family life are positive because within families there can be so many disagreements and fights and like separations. So like one thing that I guess people aren't prepared for or like usually think of beforehand when thinking of family is those fights.
Yeah. And it isn't that she necessarily describes her relationship with her family as being full of fights, and yet they're there, they're lurking there all the time. Like the dust, it's lurking there, it's just there, it's that oppressive feeling that at any moment there may be.
Is your pen okay?
Making. Other ideas? Yes, ma'am. Actually, Kate, and then jump into that.
Going off of what Ephesians said, what I kind of noticed in her writing is that I kind of thought that she kind of made a distinction between a family life with her husband and the family life with her original family.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the beginning of the book, she makes like a disagreement between her husband and her mother and their mothers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then like going off of that, like she makes it two separate realms. What is kind of what I kind of consider like two separate realms of like family, and among those two different realms, she's kind of in the middle, like struggling and like stuck. I guess.
Yeah. So I go back to this analogy of the split, right? We got the husband, and he's largely in LA and the San Francisco Bay Area. Where's this? What is this?
In the valley,
Yes,
Central Valley of California.
Thank you. And to your point earlier, Belle, it's constantly receding backwards, right? It's grandmas and 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 grandmas, you know, like grandpas and great aunts and brothers and sisters, you know, like it's all of this like diversity. So it's kind of this like open set of different people that recedes into the past. Constant and like a wave almost.
Just to add a little more, I think she's feeling like she's creating like a certain like depressive sort of bittersweet mood with like the analogy sort of that she's making like between the two realms of husband and like original family, and then how she describes marriage as the classic betrayal, and Joan, and then how her brother describes her husband as Joan's husband, and like how she's in the middle kind of stuck between the two, like the loneliness and emptiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when the Kate said marriage is betrayal, I think she used the word like the term betrayal specifically to kind of like make her readers understand that like her intensity. Because betrayal is, I think in my opinion, quite like an intense word, and to state that like the fact that she left her original family with her mother and her father, and then she left her home, and then she had to start her new family with her husband and kids. I think that's like her sense of like guilt that she's betraying, like saying that she kind of betrayed her own family from after her parents raised her and everything. She had to leave and she had to start making her own. And I thought that's like an interesting way of how she put it, because it's a classic betrayal.
Yeah. And we think about these. She's a writer, fundamentally. She's got some familiarity with the classics. And so when we think about our relationship with this open set of people that recedes infinitely into the past, grandmas and grandmas and grandmas and grandmas and grandmas and grandmas and so on and so forth, to make the jump, to go to another family, to create another family, is both what you need to do and a kind of like cutting off of what was before. By moving into the future, you eliminate something that was in the past. Last thoughts for question number 2. Ma'am.
So for English, what I found is like it's a suppressed type of people who are like lying in wait. So I felt like from the word, I think like it shows that even though the impact of family cannot be shown, like be shown, it's actually more influential than like anyone can think. It's actually impacts a person's life. So I thought this was used to emphasize that influence.
I think what you just said, Susan, segues very nicely into this idea of the power of home, and the power of past and its relationship with home. The last thing that Didion says, just for the NBSA, I would like to promise her, she's talking to her daughter. Remember, that's the reason why she goes back home, is to celebrate her daughter's first birthday. So again, we have this split between the past and the future. Young daughter, past family. I would like to promise her that she will grow up with a sense of her cousins and of rivers and of her great-grandmother's teacups. To your point, Belle, about this infinite multiplicity of the past. Would like to pledge her a picnic on a river with fried chicken and her hair uncombed. Would like to give her a home for her birthday, but we live differently now. and I can promise her nothing like that. So Didion fundamentally thinks that you can't.
Parents can't give their home. Like, parents can't give their children at home.
I'm asking you to take the next 45 minutes and write what you think. Can parents give their children a home? Why or why not? Please use this essay, other texts that you may have read, or your own experiences to make that argument and connect what we've talked about, what you've read about, to this idea of home defined specifically either as home sweet home or as where we live. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on what I'm asking you to do now? Last thing would be, there is a bit of homework that I'm going to ask you to do. It's on AP Classroom, so please make sure you check that. If you finish this essay, you'll have 45 minutes, so it should bring us right to the end of the class. But if you'd like to check it out, by all means, you can. It's also a question that deals with this idea of home and our separation from, but in a very different context. It's from a writer named Solomon Rushdie, one of his works. He is a very international guy, much like all of you, who was born in India but grew up in London, and he writes about this idea of identity in the home. Okay, cool. And this time is yours. Go ahead and grab those little blue books. And let's go ahead and get started. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
For writing about whether parents can give a home to their children, do we have to write it in a format of yes or no?
You do have to answer the question. So yes or no, because. So make sure you're answering the question that it is asking you. And then once you do that, make sure you give as many examples and details and explanation as you can.
Because like my understanding is like it depends. That's why it wasn't like I was like if you sort of like which kind of stance I'm supposed to do like this or that.
That's a great point. If you have an it depends, make sure you explain those qualifiers.
Oh, okay.
If you're a 100% yes or you're a 100% no, you still have to explain why. If you're at then you have to also explain the qualifiers. Why? And why in some senses yes, why in some senses no. Yes, ma'am.
Another notebook.
Take some. Alright. Yeah. You're not gonna get it now.
Thank you.
This reminds me of the like how
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know, I just reminded me. So I was thinking I should put it in the type format.
If you think you can draw on the rest of the speech as being an example of how you might answer this question, see if you can do so. If not, if you think there's just a relationship in terms of its form and style, I would leave it out. Yeah. All right, you're gonna have 45 minutes. Go ahead and put the time up on the clock. When you're ready, go ahead and start.